You know, that sure was a fun couple of weeks we had where I didn't have to be in the outrage business. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the couch. As always, I am Joe, and as you can see, I am broadcasting from the 80s, where greed was good, empathy was weakness, and green screen backgrounds more or less looked the same. Tonight's episode is entitled Inventing Persecution. Black people can be nerds, but nerds aren't black people. What do I mean by this? Oh, strap in.
Star Wars, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sound of Music. In the tradition of these great films about fighting back against the odds, 20th Century Fox presents another milestone in motion picture history. Revenge of the Nerds.
In the study of communications, there is a first-step cornerstone of effective discourse known as surfacing assumptions. Put far too simply, it is the practice of reaching into the depths of your own brain to assess which unconscious assumptions you're bringing to the table when trying to effectively communicate. I bring this up now, firstly, because it is very easy to assume that the things we liked were just fine and harmful to nobody, then work backwards from there. Now, I can't play even-handed or level-headed here. This movie does what Episode 1's PCU didn't. It became a rallying cry for an entire subculture. And this rallying cry has lasted well into the modern age. It is still a cornerstone of nerd culture, and thus it should be subject to greater scrutiny. If Birth of a Nation weren't rightly treated as nothing more than a historic artifact in most circles, it would be Revenge of the Nerds. How's that for an inflammatory start? Before we even get to that, though, Revenge of the Nerds doesn't even understand what a nerd is. It gives us this.
Okay, I've programmed him with all the rental units in the area. To achieve optimum efficiency, I've assigned each of you a different part of the list.
When nerds are really more like this.
Last week, Japanese scientists placed explosive detonators at the bottom of Lake Loch Ness to blow Nessie out of the water.
More this. Less this. A little of this. Not a lot of this.
Joseph.
Now, I grew up a nerd. Big surprise. I was bullied. I was picked on. But throw a rock and you'll hit somebody who was picked on. You'll also be a bully because you threw a rock at a nerd, you fucking bully. Now, I don't know literally anybody who wasn't picked on at any point in their life. Nobody. For many, this forms the basis of their entire identity. I'm a victim, they think. I am bullied. I cannot be a bully because I am the victim of bullying. As a victim, they believe anything they do is justified because they're retaliating against a world that has rejected them. They never surface this assumption. They never grow out of it. They claim to be nice guys and, for instance, complain about women who won't sleep with them, then treat those women poorly when rejected the way an actual nice person would never ever do. Somebody once told me that the majority of the internet is filled with Scut Farkases and Grover Dills, the bully and his lackey from A Christmas Story. Now, both sides of every internet argument have this problem, he said. I'd go even further. I would say that this is true everywhere, because the internet is becoming more and more functionally indistinguishable from leaving your house or apartment. The world is full of bullies and their lackeys, and the problem is, we're all both. I was forced to face a tough truth today. In my youth, I loved and identified with a film that showed me exactly what I wanted to see, and what I wanted to see was fucking horrifying. In Revenge of the Nerds, nerds are geniuses who build robots. They're talented beyond belief. They're smart and flawless in every meaningful way.
We've been laughed at and made to feel inferior. And tonight, those bastards, they trashed our house. Why? Because we're smart?
At least that's the position the film seems to take. And when I was young, I loved it. Because I was a nerd, right? All those people who picked on me were jocks and bullies, but it was because I was smarter than them, right? But if you're under 25 and you only know this film from this image macro, or if you're over 25 and haven't seen this piece of nerd propaganda since you were a kid, I suggest you rewatch it to know just how fucked up the 80s were. Revenge of the Nerd opens with two Hollywood stereotypes of dorks on their way to college.
Hey, Louis, what time you got? I'm trying to work out our exact ETA.
Hoping against hope that they'd move beyond their high school identities. Nice, harmless dorks, except, you know, they're functionally identical to the people they hate in the way they treat people. Women especially. Remember this? Well, here.
Try not to break too many hearts, huh, Louis?
That hasn't been a real problem yet, Dad.
Oh, and like most self-righteous bullies, they're entirely oblivious to the harm that they cause.
Just relax, be yourself. Like Davy Crockett always said, you sure you're right? Then go ahead.
Immediately, their hopes of moving beyond nerd identity are dashed.
Where are they?
I think they're talking about us.
No way.
And if they weren't, there'd be no movie. And at that point, I kind of wish that's what happened. Oh, hey, new people. Hi, fellas. Oh, hi, football team. Beers later? Totally, bro. We'll bring the beer. Okay, see you later. At least then I wouldn't have to look into the dark mirror of my own past and know that I liked this. Some football players who all appear to be in the same fraternity, this film is never really super clear on that, burn down their house. True to life, the athletes are treated better than us normals, so the nerds get displaced from their dorm and shoved into a gymnasium.
Provided accommodations for you that are
Excellent! Victims, goals, enemies, downtrodden protagonists. I'm with you so far, screenplay. You're a little misogynistic and simplistic, but that's fine. You're a college movie from the 80s. Somehow, everybody in the freshman dorm is a nerd. All of them. Fine, whatever, I have bigger boogers to pick.
Excuse, please, but why do they call you Booger?
I don't know.
Most nerds in this movie are just stereotypes. They have no character traits other than effeminate gay black man.
Lamar Luttrell.
Horny genius wish fulfillment kid.
Present.
Or Asian guy with oh so hilarious Asian accent.
Here, sir.
Dude, at least straw people are invented to push an agenda. This is just mocking difference while pretending to accept it lovingly. Hey guys, people from other places sound different. That's as good as writing a joke, right? I mean, it gets a laugh, right? So that's as good as actually crafting humor, right? I'm so funny. Everybody in my office says so. So in order to obtain actual housing, the nerds have to join a frat. The pretty girls of Pie House prank them by sending them to the jock frat of Alpha Beta.
You guys seem pretty cool. Take these for later. What do we need rubbers for?
Our main nerd falls for the main pretty pie gal, and even after learning of her deception, stays crazily into her. We'll get back to this later. The frat initiation is nothing more than a lazy bestiality joke. Ha, fucking ha, whatever, moving on. The nerds try to find off-campus housing where they encounter two funny jokes that come from the right place.
あんたたちに部屋は貸さないよ。Nerd.
Hi,
Right.
Mr. Wilson?
Yeah.
Just checking.
And one insistence that molestation is hilarious.
It'll be perfect for us.
Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! Ha ha! So our heroes can't find housing, fine. Without in-university sponsorship into an already existing frat, the nerds have to find a house and petition the Greek Council to start their own. They find and fix a physical house, but are of course denied house status by the jocks who run the Greek Council. So they petition a national fraternity for membership. Lambda, lambda, lambda. The Black Fraternity. And before I explain why, fuck you, movie. Fuck you. Fuck you. Now here's why. Right here, at this point, this movie starts comparing nerds to black people. Actual oppression to being made fun of. I am sorry, fellow nerds, but being shoved into a locker is not the same as an entire country denying you actual personhood. There is a world of difference between actual oppression and nerd, huge air quotes, oppression, and fuck this movie for making it. Hey, black person, I know you got shot by a yokel who took justice into their own hands instead of calling actual police officers for your crime of standing around in the wrong neighborhood, but somebody once made fun of me because I like Dungeons and Dragons, so we're the same, right? You and me, we're the same. I am not imagining things when I say that this film compares the plight of nerds with the plight of people of color in America. I got my ass kicked, sure, but nobody drugged me behind a fucking truck to death or denied my right to vote because I like weird movies, pro wrestling, or comic books. There is a huge fucking difference between being treated poorly and being actively marginalized. They are not the same thing, and if you don't admit it, you're an asshole! So the black fraternity of Lambda 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 is forced into taking on the nerds of the movie, and their leader isn't happy about it.
According to your bylaws, you have to take us on a 60-day trial basis.
I bet you we'll have the highest grade point average of any chapter you've got.
Wonderful.
Now, I'd use this to set up a future blurb about how they convince him to let them in by being, like, tolerant or something, but they don't. He accepts them only when they become bullies like the jocks. No muddied messages there. Go fuck yourself! Now, I can hear the voices of internet vitriol already, but Joe! White people don't get to exclude black people from their organizations. Why should these black people get to exclude whites just because they're nerds?
You're nerds.
Firstly, whites do get to exclude black people from their organizations, and we do. Constantly. Yes, still. That is still a thing. Secondly, that whole argument assumes that we're all treated equally in the eyes of society, and we way aren't. If you want to have the discussion that it's not okay for a women's only group or a black only group to exist, just skip the rest. We're done today. Everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. All right. So our nerd hero invites the pie woman with whom he's obsessed to a party where the Tri-Lam chapter leaders will be present so he can impress them. She denies him. Her boyfriend arranges a prank. The sisters lie and tell the Lambdas that they'll be at their party. Instead, we get girl jokes.
Where are all those good-looking sorority girls you're supposed to have dates with?
You know women. They're probably just being fashionably late.
Black jokes.
Swing low, sweet chariot.
Nerd sex jokes.
Well, let's go.
Where?
Up to your room. Do you want to fuck or not?
And finally, another farm animal prank. Ha fucking ha. The nerds hatch a plan to take over the Greek Council.
I say we blow their fucking houses up.
That'll just bring us down to their level.
What do we do?
We gotta beat them at their own game.
No! 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 That is not how this works! You do not get to play the same game as those you judge and have the moral high ground. Pick one, you fuck! You don't get both! So before retaliating against the people who actually fucked up their party, what do the nerds do? They go after the women who acted interested then rejected them. That's right, we're going full internet nice guy here. Bring your Trilby hat and shitty attitude, we're going nerd rage! They sneak into the women's dorm, steal their underwear, and plant fucking cameras. Our heroes have decided that a legitimate response to having their affection spurned is fucking felony criminal behavior. This is the moment that the movie loses all sense of a moral compass. Fuck the criminality of their offense. Forget about it for now. Morally, ethically, do these motherfuckers have a leg to stand on? Are they still victims? Is it okay that they're sitting around watching a live feed of non-consenting nude women?
We got pies.
You got other angles, Lamar?
Yeah, you have something else?
Go in the room.
Yes, go in the room.
It is one thing to show something like this in a movie like Porky's, where it is displayed as shitty behavior. When you put it in a movie in this context, and it's, ha-ha, we got our revenge, and it's supposed to be a good thing, it's a completely different scene. Context is everything.
We're drilling a hole in the women's shower so we can look at them naked.
Why? What was that to do with Frank Dennis?
I don't know.
I don't want to be a bummer, but I kind of don't get how spying on naked, unaware women is a prank at all.
Me either.
So, the new sexual assault victims throw the nerds out of their dorm, stolen underwear still in hand, and we are meant to think of this as good old-fashioned wholesome fun. When the fuck did I become the outraged adult in the room? I'll tell you when, actually. I will tell you the moment that it happened. The instant. It was the moment when I realized that my sense of fun was not more fucking important than the autonomy and comfort of other human beings. Empathy! So we're already going a bit long. Let's power through the rest of the movie. The nerds retaliate against the jocks. The Tri-Lam president accepts them. They compete in some bullshit drunken triathlon for leadership of the Greek Council and they win. The jocks then destroy the Tri-Lam house. A dork makes an I am Spartacus speech.
I'm a nerd.
And we're all supposed to fall in line and love each other for being different.
Hi, Betty.
Hi.
Just join us, cause hi. No one's really gonna be free until nerd persecution ends.
You know, so long as being different means that we still get to make fun of your accent and treat you like shit if you're a woman. Movie over. Lesson learned, 80s children. Be good to those oppressed nerds once they, leverage their position to protect themselves with the big scary black people you're afraid of in a totally not at all racist way.
Hold it, Coach! You just hold it right there.
Surface assumptions. Do you still feel like you're a bullied nerd? What are you doing about that? Because if the answer is to take that victimhood and use it to justify the worst fucking behavior possible, congratulations, you're worse than the people who bullied you. If you think it's unfair that I'm making that comparison with this movie, let me end on the worst, most sickening note possible. This movie's chief protagonist is spurned by a woman.
The Sisters of Pi welcome our newest fraternity, Lambda Lambda Lambda. We'd like to be escorts to your party Saturday night and help out in any way possible.
He likes her for no reason other than her looks.
And you're?
Betty Childs.
Thank you, Betty. Miss Childs. Maybe if you're not busy sometime, we could have a cup of coffee or something.
Oh.
Come on, pal.
When she rejects him, he plants cameras in her house and takes naked videos of her without permission and watches them with his buddies. And then he rapes her.
Hi, Betty.
A nerd. I'm not kissing a nerd.
You have to. I paid my money.
It's time for my break.
He rapes her. He fucking rapes her.
Stan. You want to do it on the moon? Take off your mask. Oh, Stan. You're so kinky.
And how does the movie treat this? What are the fucking consequences of this? Well, she falls in love with him and leaves her jock boyfriend because the nerd was so good at raping her.
That was wonderful. He did things to me you've never done before.
You're that nerd.
Yeah,
God, you are wonderful.
thanks.
Are all nerds as good as you?
Yes.
I started this show hoping that I could always have something positive to say. It was never my mission to go looking for the worst things, you know, that we used to love and bringing them up now and saying, hey, look at through this new cultural lens, what did our past look like? That wasn't what I aimed to do. I aimed more to point out things I didn't like about things that I loved. And then say, hey, it's okay, it's, you know, it's bad that it did those things. Let's acknowledge that it did them and move on. Unfortunately, I can't do that today. So I'm going to do my best to end on a positive note somehow. I'm a firm believer in incremental progress. You're never going to approach somebody with the exact opposite of their viewpoint and they're just going to change 100% overnight. That is never going to happen. It happens bits and pieces at a time. You have a bit of a good point, they have a bit of a good point, and you advance from there. Or you have a bit of a good point and they have nothing, and usually that just winds up being, it's the internet, it's real life. Arguing is hard. We don't see as blatant terribleness like this in movies today. If we did, there would be outcry. And the outcry, as opposed to like the 90s, would not be coming from like the religious right. It would not be coming from people going, censor this crap, make it go away. It would come in this form, really. It would come from the form of a bunch of people going, I don't like that, I don't think that's cool. And there's a lot of people who go, you can't censor me, you can't censor me. And it's not about censorship. It's about, I have an opinion, you did a thing, I didn't like it, and I get to say so. Other people get to say that they liked it. And that's how this all works. And I really like that that's happened. Because we never needed a big board of, you know, all-seeing, all-knowing sycophants to tell us what we can and cannot see. That didn't work. And people still pretty much got to do whatever they wanted in movies. They just couldn't do it with it, you know, and get a rating. So even with all of that happening, we're still progressing. You wouldn't, like I said, you wouldn't see this today. You'll see things like it. And I hope you look for them. Because that's what this show is about. But I think this is behind us. I'm crossing my fingers. But the next time you self-identify as a nerd and use this movie as a rallying cry, remember that you're actually pointing out some of the serious flaws in nerd culture. We tend to be self-entitled. We tend to have persecution complexes. And we tend to want to censor people now. When did that happen? When did the nerd community go, nobody's allowed to criticize video games because they're art? That's not how art works. Art demands criticism. So if you really think that what you like is good, accept the criticism. Because that just means it's worthy of it. Incremental progress is tied to a little concept known as bargaining while advancing. Don't ask, don't tell was not the greatest idea, but it was better than what was before it. And I try to apply that philosophy to my media critiques. As long as we're getting better. For Sofa Justice Warriors, I'm Joe. Thank you, everybody. Good night.